Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by asking you to just visualize a very specific, very sensory moment.
Okay.
You're sitting in a pew, or maybe it's a folding chair on a lawn. It's the middle of July.
Mm-hmm.
The air is thick, it's humid, maybe a little stagnant. You're wearing a suit or a black dress that it's just, a little too warm for the weather.
It's already uncomfortable.
You were uncomfortable, you were sad, and you were waiting. And then someone hands you an object.
It's usually a stick with a piece of cardboard stapled to
The
it.
funeral fan. For most of us, this object is pure utility. It is a desperate sort of attempt to move air.
A very basic tool.
Exactly.
Ah,
But we have a stack of sources today that are going to ask us to look at that object and see something completely different. We are just looking at a tool for cooling down. We are looking at what might be the most interactive, intimate, and frankly, overlooked piece of design in the entire ritual of death.
It really is the workhorse of the memorial service, but it gets, none of the glory. We're doing a deep dive today into bespoke remembrance, designing custom funeral fans from scratch. And the sources we're pulling from today, ranging from graphic design principles to grief psychology, they all argue that when you move from a mass-produced template to a custom design, you aren't just making a fan.
You're doing more.
You're reclaiming agency.
And that's a big claim for a piece of paper on a stick.
Yeah.
But as I went through this material, I really started to see it. We're going to cover the anatomy of this thing, the physics, the paper engineering, the psychology of typography, the whole 9 yards.
Everything.
But before we get into the how, we have to nail down the why. Why focus on the fan? I mean, why not the program or the prayer card?
It comes down to physics and biology, actually.
Okay.
Think about the program. You walk in, an usher hands it to you. You sit down. You read the order of service. You might look at the photo. Then what do you do with it?
I put it down. Or I tuck it into my purse or my pocket,
All right.
or I sit on it.
Exactly. It becomes static. It's just information. But the fan is active. The analysis in these sources points out that the fan is the only memorial object that requires repeated interaction.
Repeated interaction.
Yeah. You are holding it. You are manipulating it. You are moving it back and forth in a rhythm for maybe 60, 90 minutes.
That's almost like a metronome.
That's a great way to put it. It's a physical anchor. The sources describe it as quietly accompanying the grieving process. You're listening to a eulogy that might be absolutely heartbreaking, and your hand is keeping this steady rhythm. It grounds you. There is a self-soothing element to that repetitive motion of fanning that we just don't often talk about.
It's almost a subconscious fidget, a way to channel that nervous energy.
100%. It's a physical task that occupies a small part of your brain, which can be a relief when the emotional side is completely overwhelmed.
So the argument is,
Yeah.
if this object is going to be in your hand, close to your face, touching your skin for an hour or more, shouldn't it be more than just a piece of clip art?
Precisely. And that leads us to the core concept of today's deep dive. Bespoke remembrance.
Okay, so let's clarify that term bespoke, because it gets thrown around a lot in fashion marketing.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about customizable here, are we?
No, absolutely not. And that's a really crucial distinction the source material makes. Customizable usually implies a template.
Right.
It means you have a preset box, a predetermined layout, and you can type a name into it. You're filling in the blanks.
You're swapping out the placeholder text.
You're swapping out the placeholder. Bespoke means you are starting from zero. You are starting with the raw materials, the paper, the shape, the ink, and building the object around the person's essence.
It's the difference between buying a suit off the rack and having a tailor measure your inseam.
Perfect analogy. With a template, you are asking, how does this person fit into this design? With bespoke, you ask, how should this design grow out of this person?
But that introduces a problem, doesn't it? I call it the blank canvas paralysis.
Oh, yeah.
If you tell a grieving family, here's a template, just upload a photo, that's safe. It's easy. It's one less thing to worry about.
It's a defined task.
Yes. But if you tell them, here is a blank white screen, make something that represents your father's soul, that is terrifying.
It is. It's cognitively overwhelming at a time when your brain is already foggy from grief. You're dealing with decision fatigue on a massive scale.
Right. You're choosing a casket, you're calling relatives. The last thing you want is another big creative project.
But the guide we're looking at suggests that you don't start with the screen. You don't start with software like Photoshop or Canva. You start with intention.
You start with the why.
Yes. Before you pick a font, before you choose a color, you have to ask, What is the dominant emotion we want this service to have? Or what is the core feeling we want people to walk away with?
Give me an example of how that abstract question actually changes the physical design.
Okay. Let's say the intention is serenity. The family wants peace. They want the service to feel like a deep, collective breath.
I like that.
That single word, serenity, dictates everything that follows. For the paper, you're going to choose a matte stock because it absorbs light and feels soft. It's quiet.
Not glossy.
Definitely not glossy. Glossy is energetic, it reflects. For the shape, you're going to choose rounded corners because sharp angles can feel aggressive or, jarring. You might use cool colors, blues, soft greens, slate grays. Everything serves that one word.
Versus, say, a celebration of life for someone who is, the life of the party. A big, loud personality.
Right. If the goal is joy or vibrancy, everything changes. You might go for that glossy finish that makes colors pop and reflects light.
You'd want that energy.
You'd want the energy. You might use a high-contrast sans serif font that feels bold and confident. You might even change the shape of the fan entirely to something more geometric and unexpected.
So it's a completely different object at the end of the day.
Completely. And that's the key takeaway here. In a template, the structure dictates the meaning. You fit the person into the box. In bespoke design, the meaning dictates the structure. The person builds the box.
Let's get into that structure, the actual anatomy of the fan. Because I think if I asked a listener to draw a funeral fan right now, 99% of them would draw an hourglass shape or maybe a shield shape on a wooden popsicle stick.
The paddle. It's the default. It's what we all picture.
But why?
Well, the source material challenges us to look at that silhouette and ask, why is it that shape? And the answer is mostly about manufacturing efficiency.
So it's about money.
It's about money and logistics. It's a shape that's easy to die cut, and it maximizes the number of fans you can get out of a single large sheet of paper. It's an economic decision, not an aesthetic one.
So if we aren't bound by those factory economics, if we're starting from scratch, what are the other options?
The options are, well, pretty much endless, as long as you respect the physics.
What do you mean by that?
You can change the geometry to match the personality. So soft, organic shapes, circles, ovals, shapes that feel like a cloud or a leaf. They convey gentleness, nature, peace.
I can picture that.
But you could also do an elongated rectangle with rounded corners for a very modern, almost architectural feel. Think of a Frank Lloyd Wright kind of person.
Or a very minimalist person.
Exactly. The shape itself starts telling the story.
But we have to keep physics in mind, right? Like you said. I assume we can't just make it a star shape because that wouldn't move any air.
Right. And this is where we have to balance the art with the aerodynamics of it all. A star shape would be terrible. Too much drag, not enough continuous surface area to actually push the air.
And the points would be a problem.
The points would be a problem. They'd be dangerous in a crowded pew. You'd be poking people. So you have to think about what the source calls the wingspan.
The wingspan. I love that.
It's such a great term. If you make a fan that is too wide, every time you wave it, you are elbowing your grandmother who's sitting next to you.
I have never once thought about that. The crowded pew factor.
Oh, it's a real design constraint. And it's something a template would never consider. If the service is in a tight historic chapel with very narrow pews, you actually want a narrower, more vertical fan.
So it moves up and down more than side to side.
Precisely. If it's an outdoor service with lawn chairs and plenty of space, you can go wider to maximize the airflow. The environment dictates the geometry.
And speaking of maximizing, let's talk about the surface area itself. The source mentions the debate between single-sided and double-sided fans.
Is that really a debate? I mean, it seems like double-sided is just better.
From a design perspective, yes. But from a budget and, a DIY perspective, single-sided is easier. You just print one side, glue a stick on the back. Done.
That's true.
But the source is adamant. Do not do single-sided. Not if you can help it.
And this is because of the real estate issue, right? Just having more space.
That's part of it. But it's also about what the material calls the visual field. One of the biggest mistakes in memorial design, not just for fans but for everything, is overcrowding. People try to cram 80 years of life, birth dates, death dates, a poem, a scripture, a short bio, the names of the pallbearers, a thank you note from the family, onto a 5x7 card.
And it ends up looking like a CVS receipt. There's no hierarchy.
It looks chaotic. And chaos is the opposite of what you want in a moment of grief. You want clarity. You want peace. By using both sides of the fan, you create breathing room.
You can separate the elements?
Yes. You put the portrait and the name on the front. Let it be dignified, let it be a singular, powerful image. Then you put all the text, the logistics of poetry on the back. You separate the emotional connection from the informational content.
That separation seems vital. It allows the front of the fan to act almost like a portrait on a wall, and the back to act like the book you're reading.
Exactly. It gives each element its own space to be effective.
Now, I want to get tactile, because we've all held that fan that feels cheap.
The floppy fan.
The floppy fan. You wave it, and it just bends. It sort of flops over. It feels completely disposable. The floppy fan syndrome. This is where we get into what one of the sources calls cardstock engineering.
I love that term. It sounds so serious, breaking down paper like it's a construction material.
It effectively is. In the paper world, weight is measured in pounds or GSM grams per square meter. It gets a little confusing, but just think of it this way. The average copy paper in your office printer is about 20 pounds, or 75 GSM.
It's flimsy. It has no structural integrity whatsoever.
None. Now, a decent business card? That's maybe 100 to 110-pound cover stock. That's getting closer.
So what's the recommendation for a fan?
For a fan, the source recommends a minimum of 80-pound cover, but ideally you're getting up into the 100, 120-pound range. But here is the secret that the source reveals, the pro tip.
Okay.
It's not just about the thickness of the sheet, it's about the construction.
What do you mean by construction?
The sandwich method. If you are making a custom fan, you rarely just staple a stick to one piece of paper. You take two pieces of that heavy cardstock and you glue them back to back with the handle running up the middle, hidden inside the sandwich.
Oh, so the handle disappears into the design.
Correct. It creates a seamless, integrated object. But more importantly, it doubles the rigidity. You are essentially laminating two sheets together. That structural integrity communicates something subconsciously to the guest who's holding it.
It says, this is solid.
It says, this is permanent. This life mattered. When you hand someone a flimsy piece of paper, the subconscious message is, this is trash. When you hand them a rigid, substantial object, the message is, this is a keepsake. It implies value.
It's amazing how much meaning we pull from just the weight of an object in our hand.
It's primal. Heavy equals important.
Let's talk about the stick, the handle. Because again, I picture that wooden tongue depressor. That's the default.
The wavy-edged stick.
Sure.
Yes, which is fine. Wood is classic. It feels natural, it feels grounded. But the source points out that the handle is a major design element that gets ignored 99% of the time.
It's treated as a purely functional piece.
Right. But if you have this sleek, modern black and white fan design and then you slap a jagged, beige piece of balsa wood on it, you've broken the aesthetic. You've introduced a foreign element.
So what are the alternatives to that standard wooden stick?
Well, you can use dyed wood. Black wood handles can be very striking and elegant, or even just a higher quality sanded, smooth birch handle instead of the rougher, cheaper ones. But the really high-end bespoke move is the paperboard handle.
Is that just more paper? How is that strong enough?
It's extremely thick, compressed paper. Think of the material on the cover of a hardbound book. It's very rigid. And the beauty of it is you can have a handle that is the exact same color and finish as the fan itself.
So it looks monolithic, like it was carved from one piece.
Exactly. It's incredibly modern and clean. And then there are die-cut handles where there is no stick at all. The handle is just a hole cut into the shape of the fan itself, like a painter's palette.
Right, I've seen those. They feel a bit more casual to me, maybe.
They can be, but they're also very practical for transport. They pack flat.
Oh, that's a good point.
If you have to ship 500 fans to a destination funeral, the stick fans are a logistical nightmare to box up without them getting broken or tangled. The flat fans stack like a perfect deck of cards.
That is a logistical detail I would never, ever have considered.
That's fascinating.
It all comes back to intention. What are the needs of this specific situation?
Let's pivot to the visual storytelling. We have our shape, we have our heavy sandwich method cardstock. Now we have to put ink on it.
This is where we move from just decoration to creating a true narrative.
And the source talks a lot about the hierarchy of text. Can you explain that principle? It's a fundamental graphic design principle that applies to everything from websites to magazines, but it is absolutely critical here because the object is moving.
Right. That's the unique challenge.
If you put a long paragraph of text in 10-point font on a fan and someone is waving it back and forth, it's just a blur. It's completely illegible. You've wasted the space.
So you have to design for motion.
You do. You need what the source calls intentional restraint. You have to make hard choices. You have to decide what is the one thing someone needs to see from 3 feet away.
The name.
Usually it's the name or the face. That's your primary level of the hierarchy. Everything else, the dates, the poem, the acknowledgments, needs to be visually secondary. Smaller, maybe a lighter color.
And this brings us to fonts. I feel like people really underestimate how much emotional heavy lifting a font does.
Oh, absolutely. Typography is the voice of the print. The source has a great line. It says, fonts communicate mood before words are read.
I love that. Give me the breakdown. The basic font families.
Okay. So you have serif fonts. Those are the ones with the little feet on the letters like Times New Roman or Garamond.
Classic book font.
The classic book font. These convey tradition. They feel established, academic, sometimes religious, formal. If you are doing a service in a grand old cathedral, you probably want a serif font. It implies history and gravitas.
And sans serif, the smooth ones without the feet.
Sans serif like Helvetica or Futura or Arial conveys modernity. It's clean, it's no nonsense, it's straightforward. If the deceased was a modernist architect or a young person or just someone who hated clutter, sans serif is the way to go. It feels contemporary and clear.
Okay, so what about script? The cursive fonts.
Script is the danger zone.
Why is it the danger zone? Everyone loves a nice script font.
Because it is the hardest to read, by far. It can convey elegance, yes. It can feel personal, like a handwritten letter. But if you use an ornate script for an entire poem, no one will read it. Their eyes will just give up.
So what's the advice?
The source advises using script like a spice, not the main course. Use it for the name. Use it for a header, like in loving memory. Do not use it for the body text. And for goodness sake, watch your kerning.
Kerning, that's the space between the individual letters, right?
Yes. In script fonts, if the kerning is too tight or too loose, the letters don't connect properly or they crash into each other. It just looks messy and unprofessional. On a headline, that stands out like a sore thumb.
So the takeaway is legibility over everything else.
Legibility is a form of respect. Especially for older eyes. We have to remember the demographic at many funerals. You need high contrast. Dark text on light paper. Please, please do not put light gray text on a white background because you think it looks airy or delicate.
Because no one can read it.
No one over 40 can read it.
Let's talk about imagery now. Because in a template, you get the clouds, you get the sunset. Maybe a dove if you're feeling fancy.
The generic heaven aesthetic.
Right. But with bespoke design, the background can literally be anything.
Anything. And this is where the storytelling really shines. The source mentions using textures and patterns from the person's actual life.
Oh, I like that idea.
Let's say the person was an avid quilter. You can scan a high-resolution image of a piece of their favorite quilt and use that pattern as the border or even as a faded background.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
Well, if they were a carpenter, you could use a high-res image of wood grain, maybe a specific oak or walnut they love to work with, as the background texture. Suddenly, the fan doesn't just look like a fan, it feels like the person. It has their DNA in it.
It creates those Easter eggs of remembrance that we talked about.
Exactly. Meaningful details that maybe only the close family will notice, but that make the object feel so deeply specific and personal, it rewards close attention.
The source also touches on some important technical issues with imagery, specifically resolution. We live in a world where most of our photos live on our phones.
And we look at them on our phones, and they look fine.
They look great. But that is the trap. A photo that looks great on Instagram might be 72 DPI dots per inch. That is screen resolution. It's optimized for a device with a backlight.
Right.
If you try to print that on paper, it looks like a Minecraft character. It's blocky, it's pixelated, it's fuzzy.
And there is almost nothing worse than a pixelated photo of a loved one on a memorial item. It feels so disrespectful.
It does. It feels low effort, like nobody cared enough to find a good photo.
The standard for professional printing is 300 DPI minimum. And you also need to consider something called bleed.
Okay, define bleed for us.
Bleed is a printing term. It's extra image area. If you want the image or background color to go all the way to the very edge of the fan, you actually have to design the image to go past the edge of the final shape.
Why?
Because when the machine cuts the shape out, there's always a tiny bit of movement. Paper shifts. The blade might be off by 0.5 millimeter. If you design right up to the line and the cutter is off by that tiny amount, you get this ugly white sliver on the edge.
It looks like a mistake.
It looks like a mistake and it breaks the illusion of quality. So in bespoke design, you have to create a bleed area, usually about 1/8 of an inch, all the way around your design to account for that mechanical shift.
I want to move to the environment again, specifically that section on engineering for the elements.
Yeah.
We talked about The size for a crowded room, but what about humidity? What about sweat?
This is the practical horror story of funeral fans. It's a hot day, you are holding the fan, your thumb is naturally a little moist. You are pressing your thumb right onto the face of the deceased printed on the fan.
Okay.
If you used a home inkjet printer to make that fan,
Oh no, it smears.
it smears instantly. Inkjet ink is water-soluble. You can end up with a blue or black smudge right across your grandmother's forehead.
That is an absolute nightmare scenario.
It is. It's horrifying. That's why the source material strongly recommends either professional laser printing, which uses toner that is heat set and effectively plasticized onto the paper.
So it's waterproof.
Essentially, yes. Or using a protective coating. A UV coating gives it a bit of a sheen, or a matte varnish, which is invisible but seals the ink.
It protects the artifact.
Exactly. Because remember, people aren't just holding these gingerly, they are gripping them. They're sweating on them. They might be crying on them. The object has to be durable enough to survive the physical reality of grief.
And that brings us right to the big debate of home printer versus a professional print shop. The source is pretty clear on this.
It is. And look, I get the appeal of DIY. It's cheaper, it's immediate, you have full control. But home printers really struggle with heavy cardstock. They jam, they can curl the paper because their rollers are too small and tight.
And the cutting. I've tried. Cutting a smooth curve by hand with scissors is impossible to make look good.
It is impossible. You will have jagged edges, little flat spots on your curve, and a jagged edge on a fan is a functional problem.
How so?
If you were fanning your neck on a hot day and the edge is sharp or rough from being cut with scissors, it's physically scratching you.
So you're sitting there in a state of grief, and the object meant to bring you comfort is physically irritating you.
Exactly. It creates a negative sensory feedback loop. It's a distraction. Professional production uses die cutting. It's a custom-made steel blade shaped like the fan, stamped with thousands of pounds of pressure. The edge is perfectly smooth. It's uniform every time. It's comfortable to the touch.
So the production quality really matters for the function, not just the look.
It's critical for the function.
Let's talk about culture, because templates, by their very nature, are generic. They usually follow a very specific Western Judeo-Christian aesthetic. White, gold, maybe some light blue script fonts.
Right. It's a very narrow view of what mourning looks like. But bespoke design allows you to break that completely and honor a person's specific heritage.
What are some concrete examples of where a standard template just fails culturally?
Well, color is a huge one. As you said, in the West, black is the color of mourning. But in many parts of Asia, white is the color of mourning and death.
A complete inversion.
A complete inversion. In South Africa, red has been used in specific political and mourning contexts for activists. A standard template from a website might not even offer the specific shade or combination of colors that signifies mourning in a specific heritage.
And then there are symbols.
Exactly. A template gives you a generic cross or a dove. But what if the family is from Ghana and needs a specific Adinkra symbol that represents a proverb about life and death?
You're not going to find that in a drop-down menu.
Never. Or what if you need a Celtic knot for an Irish family, or specific Islamic calligraphy or Hindu iconography for another? Custom design allows you to pull in the actual visual language of that person's faith and culture.
It feels like a fundamental form of respect.
It is respect. It's avoiding the clip art version of a culture. It allows the community to see themselves and their traditions accurately reflected in the object, rather than seeing a generic one-size-fits-all approximation.
We're coming into the final stretch of our deep dive here, and I want to talk about the process itself, the meta layer, as the outline calls it. The source claims that the act of designing the fan can be therapeutic. Now, that seems like a stretch to me. It just sounds like more work when you're already exhausted.
It is work, there's no doubt about that. But think about the psychology of loss. When someone you love dies, you lose control. Everything feels like it's happening to you.
Right. The hospital, the coroner, the funeral home, they're all driving the bus. They have their procedures, their timelines.
You are just a passenger in your own grief. You're just signing papers and nodding and trying to keep up.
It's a very passive experience.
Exactly. So designing a custom fan, as small as it may seem, creates a pocket of agency. You are making choices. You are saying, no, not that blue, this blue, not that photo, this photo. You are exerting your will on the world in a small but meaningful way that honors the person you lost.
You are taking control of how their story is told, at least as one piece of it.
Yes. It's a way to do something with your love and your grief. And it often leads to what the source calls collaborative grief.
Which means,
It means the family gathers around the dining room table, or more likely, a computer screen, and argues about fonts.
which sounds incredibly stressful, actually.
It can be, but the argument isn't really about fonts, it's about memory. One person says, Mom wasn't elegant, she was funny, we shouldn't use that fancy script font.
She would have hated that.
She would have hated that.
Hmm.
Another person says, remember that dress you wore to my wedding, the lilac one? We should try to match that color. The design process forces the conversation about who the person actually was in all their complexity.
So the fan becomes a physical manifestation of that family conversation.
Precisely. The object ends up carrying the collective care of the family. When you hold the finished fan, you aren't just holding a picture of the deceased. You're holding the result of the family's effort, their stories, their arguments, their love, all baked into this one object.
And that, I think, leads directly to the longevity of these things.
Yeah.
I have a fan from my great-aunt's funeral from years ago. It's in a shoebox in my closet. I haven't looked at it in 5 years. But I haven't thrown it away.
And you probably never will.
Why is that? I throw away birthday cards. I throw away old programs from plays.
Because a birthday card is a transaction. Happy birthday, love, so-and-so. A funeral fan, especially a thoughtfully designed, bespoke one, is a witness. It was there. It was in the room. It holds the energy of that day.
It's an artifact of the event itself.
It's an artifact.
Yeah.
And if the design is tactile, if it has that heavy cardstock, that specific texture we talked about, when you do pull it out of the box and touch it years later, it triggers sensory memory in a way a flimsy piece of paper can't.
It transports you back.
A template is a piece of paper. A bespoke fan is an artifact. It is designed to last. It is designed to be kept.
So as we wrap up, here's the thought I want to leave our listeners with today. We've geeked out on paper weights and die cuts and kerning and fonts. But ultimately, all of this is about translation.
Translating spirit into matter.
Exactly. If you had to distill a person's essence, their laugh, their specific kind of stubbornness, their warmth, into a single tactile object, if you had to choose a paper texture that felt like their skin or their favorite sweater, a font that sounded like their voice, a shape that mimicked their presence in a room, what would those choices be?
It's a profound question. It moves us away from just planning a funeral, which is a checklist of tasks, and toward designing a legacy, which is an act of storytelling.
It really changes how you look at the next memorial you attend. You won't just see a fan, you'll see a series of choices. And hopefully, if it's done well, you'll see the love behind them.
Ideally, you won't even see the design at all. You'll just feel the person. That's when you know it's worked.
That's the goal. Thanks for diving deep with us today on this.
It was a privilege, a fascinating topic.
We'll catch you in the next one. Take care.